I'm going to do something a little bit different this week. I haven't got a guest today for you, but I am going to be talking. So today I'm going to be answering your questions, or the most commonly asked questions that I get about pricing. And if you've joined me live as well, I'm going to be able to answer your questions live. So please do, if you've got a question, pop it in the comments and I'll ask it as we go along. So I'm going to be answering first some of the most commonly asked questions that I get from people about pricing their products, particularly if you're making a product in the UK, because I know that pricing can always be one of the biggest sticking points. So, before we come on to the first question, just want to say a little bit of a reminder. Next Tuesday, that's the 11th of October, I am not going to be around to go live because I'm speaking at the ASBCI conference in York, which is going to be fun. I haven't been to York for a very long time, so that's exciting. So I'm going to be there next Tuesday. So I'm definitely, although I won't be live, there will be a video going out at 1 o'clock next Tuesday. Haven't got a plan for what that is yet, but I will keep you posted. Hello, Russ, and hello, Roslyn. Brilliant. Good to see you here in the chat. Fantastic. If you've got any questions, in fact, Roslyn, you were one of the people that inspired me a little bit to do this topic today, because I know we'd had a little bit of a chat about pricing. So with no further ado, let me see if I can make the technology work and bring the first question up on the screen. Yes, it works. Amazing. Okay. So the first question that I commonly get asked is, what markup do retailers add? So you might be thinking about selling wholesale when previously you'd only sold direct to the consumer, and you want to know what is the typical price that retailers will add on. Well, that often depends from retailer to retailer. And I know that's like not necessarily the answer you want to hear, but I can give you a general guide. It's usually twice or three times, between twice and three times what your wholesale price is. The average, depending on the retailer, is probably about 2.5 times your wholesale price. At the very least, it will be twice your wholesale price. And then you mustn't forget that if you aren't registered for VAT, the retailer most probably is, in which case you need to make sure that you've allowed for the fact that they're going to add VAT on. So say you're charging £100 wholesale for something, they'll want to sell it for 200 plus VAT, so 240. Now, where a lot of people come a cropper with this is that they have already priced and sold a product for a direct-to-consumer audience, and they're already selling out there on their own website or at events, and they haven't factored in the wholesale price. So that can be quite tricky, because a retailer is not going to want to sell your product for more, especially much more than you're selling it for on your own website or to your own audience. So you've got to make sure that your prices are aligning with what they're going to sell it for. Now, if you can work it back retrospectively, then that's the best thing to do. So if you've already got a great margin on your product and you've got room to go down to the wholesale price and sell it at that price and still be selling your product at the same price as the retailer, brilliant. Now, if you haven't, some of the things that you can do are, firstly, introduce some new products specifically for that retailer that are at a price point that is that works for them and works for you based on what your costs are. So you could introduce a whole new product for them, or a version of what you already do, but that's personalized or made specifically for them. Because that way you haven't got customers that are directly comparing the price on your website with the price on their website. So that's one option. The other option is to find different suppliers for materials or the cost of making the product and try and get that price down. Now, that is sometimes negotiable. If you've been buying from a factory and you're going to be placing orders that are significantly larger because you've got a wholesale order, there's going to be some negotiation that you can do. And there's certainly, when you start talking in bigger volumes and you start putting zeros on the end, they're likely to lower their prices. Or you could potentially find a new manufacturer to make the same product. So it's probably going to be a version of both of those things that you'll end up doing to get to the ideal relationship with a retailer where you can retail to them and also make it work for you. In rare incidences, it's worth thinking about wholesaling to a key retailer that's so high profile that you don't make that much money on it when you wholesale it to them, but it actually is a great benefit to appear in that store or on that online retailer. So as an example for that, for instance, Private White, James Eden from Private White, who I interviewed on the podcast a while back, when they decided to no longer do wholesale, the one account they did keep was Mr. Porter, because it was so great to be on Mr. Porter along with other brands that they wanted to be seen amongst other high profile and high end menswear brands. So it was worth them being on that site alone just for the marketing and the PR that they got from it, even if it meant they weren't making a great margin on those products. Now, the other thing you can do is just sell a very limited range to the retailer that you're going to wholesale to. And whereas you keep the rest of the products on your own website. Does that make sense? So you could just pick one or two products that you do have a good margin on, that you can sell to a retailer. That attracts people to your brand. It spreads the word about your brand to a wider audience, who then hopefully will Google your brand and find your own website and buy from you directly from other pieces that you sell. So those are generally the tips that I would give if you're thinking about doing wholesale or you don't know how to price for wholesale. Yeah, I think that's it covered. That is that question covered. I'm just seeing some of the names popped up in the chat. Hello, Leanne. Brilliant. Good to see you here. Hello, Sarah. Oh, amazing. It's so great to see so many of you here today and some of the lovely BBAers that we have in our British Brand Accelerator as well. Amazing. I'm loving all the wavy hands. Right, so the next question that we commonly get asked is that your fabric or manufacturing costs or your just general costs have gone up, particularly at the moment. And should you raise your prices? You know, I know this is always a nerve-wracking thing. When this happens, your costs have gone up and you're not sure what reaction you're going to get from your customers, from your audience when you suddenly have a price increase. So the first thing I would say is, please don't be tempted to keep all of your prices the same, even though your costs have gone up. Because if you do that, you're basically going to be in a lot worse position for your business than you were before the prices went up. You're going to be making less profit for yourself. You're going to run yourself ragged, and that's not going to do anyone any good. And particularly at the moment, you need to bear in mind that a lot of people's costs are going up. So you're in exactly the same boat as your competitors, as other businesses that are making products, making and selling products. So if there was a good time to put your prices up, now you're in that position where it's kind of to be expected. The important thing is how you communicate that to your customer and that you let them know that there is a price rise coming and how that happens. If possible, give them the opportunity to buy some last few products from you at the original price before you put your prices up. You might find something like that where you're giving people a fixed date to make the purchase actually means that you'll get a spike in sales because people will rush to buy from you at the old prices before you have the new prices. So look at it as an opportunity in that respect. I think there's also a certain fear when it comes to putting your prices up, just in pricing your products in general. And what we do see a lot is people almost like underselling, well, not say almost, definitely underselling themselves when it comes to pricing their products, particularly if you're making a product in the UK. You need to bear in mind that, you know, you've got a fantastic product which people should value, which you put your heart and soul into. And if you're not pricing your products correctly, that's just not going to do anyone any good. If you're just not pricing your products for what they should be and you're not making any profit, well, you're going to feel disillusioned with your business. Your customers are going to pick up on that, and you're just not going to give out the impression that you're selling good value products that they're going to want to buy. So firstly, have the confidence to know that you do need to raise your prices, because you can guarantee that every other business is feeling exactly the same as you are right now. So you need to have that confidence. Yes, you probably are going to have some people that will turn around and say, I can't afford the new prices. And sadly, that is often the way it goes, is that you'll lose some customers because that really has hit their ceiling for that product, for that price that that you're now charging. But you may find that actually you start to attract some new customers who, now that you've actually raised your prices, start to look at them and think, that's a brand that I want to buy from. So you'll reposition your brand from one place where you were selling to certain types of people, potentially to a new market, which attracts a higher end customer who maybe is not putting price first. So that's an important thing to bear in mind. But when you do get increased prices from your manufacturers, whatever you do, please make sure you work out your costings and you know what you should be charging and what your new margin is based on those new costs you're getting. And those of you that are in British Brand Accelerator that are watching this will know that Michelle and I are always going on about, have you looked at your cost prices? Do you know how much those new prices are affecting your margin? Get it all down on paper. Do the maths. And I know lots of people making products are like, oh no, I've got to do the maths and I've got to work out my margin. But honestly, it really does pay dividends if you actually get it down on paper and you know what you're up against. It may be that where you've got an increase in some of your costs, you could potentially lower the cost of some of the other things that you're doing that go into making that product. That could be maybe you've overspec'd your packaging and your packaging is too expensive. Maybe there are other things that you'll start looking at that don't necessarily add the value to the product, where you can cut costs a little bit, but just work it out and get it down on paper so you know where you stand and you know what you need to be you know what you need to be charging at these new costs to still carry on making your business a decent amount of profit. I think I've said everything on that point. Did we have any comments or questions? Did I see something from Russ here? Russ said, would it be a good idea to simply change components to make a unique product relatively easy? Russ, right, okay, so that question is related to the wholesale question. Yeah, that makes sense, right? Would it be a good idea to simply change your components? Yeah, so if you are selling to a wholesaler, if you are selling to a retailer and you want to wholesale, it could be that you could change some of your components, but you don't want to do it to the detriment of the quality and the spec of the product, if that makes sense. But there might be some things that you can, rather than seeing them as taking them away and de-speccing them, things that you can add on as extra value for the customers that buy from you directly. So there might be something extra that you can offer them, which will still mean when people look at your website versus the retailer that's selling your products, the prices look the same, but you're offering a little something extra as part of that purchase. That could be one way that you could do it. Roslyn says she's going to put her prices up on the 17th of October. Right, brilliant. Go, Roslyn. Oh, look, I can bring that on the screen. I've just realised. I'm going to put my prices up on the 17th of October. Announced it to my newsletter subscribers this weekend. And you've had positive feedback. Well, there you go then, you see. Sometimes the worst thing is pressing the button on those prices and putting them up and going, oh no, what's going to happen? And it was all okay. So it was the fear. You actually, think about if you hadn't decided to put your prices up and you genuinely start making yourself feel a bit rubbish, you weren't charging what you were worth or what your products were worth. And you just wished you'd had the courage to send that email and press that button to put the prices up and to see what actually happened. And lo and behold, people understood. Love that, Rosin. Absolutely love it. Right, let's get on to the next question, which is, my customers only buy from me when I have a sale on. Should I lower my prices? Now, this is a really good one because this is basically what happened to us when I was working at Debenhams. Debenhams had got into such a pickle They got themselves into that situation where they trained their customers to always expect those Blue Cross days that they did, where everything was like near enough half price. And to the point where 80% of their stock, 80% of their socks, not just their socks, all of their products, 80% of their products were sold at in those sales. So they'd actually just got their customers used to always seeing that there was a sale on. And funny enough, if anyone has watched the Trouble at Topshop TV show, if you haven't watched it, it's brilliant about what happened with Topshop, how it went from being a fantastic brand that all women wanted to buy, that were people rushed to get kind of affordable, good quality fashion, to when Philip Green took over and totally murdered the whole thing and it went down the pan. One of the things they said that went wrong when Philip Green joined was that everything started going in a sale. So they trained their customers to expect a sale. So big retailers do it all the time, and it's usually the end for their business. It's the start of the slippery slope where they're just going down the pan, and it just speaks of desperation. Now, I think if you are in a situation where your customers have come to always expect a sale, you need to start retraining them that that is not going to happen. So you need to start telling them, this year we're not doing a Good Friday sale. And you need to stand firm like you do when you put up your prices. Yes, in the short term, you'll probably see a bit of a dip. But what you need to do is start attracting a customer who is not looking for a discount. You're going to have some people that will fall by the... Sorry, say that again. You're going to have some people that will fall by the wayside if you stop discounting. But what were those customers actually worth to your business anyway if they only bought from you when you had a sale on? It's much better to start retraining your audience to buy from you because you offer great value, not just because you've got a sale on, and start finding new customers. Now, it can be a long and painful process. It's much easier when you introduce new products to start saying we're not discounting the new products. By the same token, if you do want to have a sale, only discount certain products and keep them really separate from the rest of your offer. So maybe have a, what do they call it? Like an outlet page on your website where you're selling products, just your discounted ends of line on an outlet part of your website. Or have a flash sale of just discontinued products, but make a really good reason of why you are very rarely having a discount or a sale. So Hebtroco did it recently. I'm on their newsletter list. They never used to have a sale ever at Hebtroco, but they had a one-off sale where they had a we're moving, and this is just the first and only time we will do this. We've got certain items that we're going to discontinue. And if you are going to do that, make a big thing about it being a special one-off and not a regular thing. So it is a case if you do need to have a painful period where you say, no, we're not going to discount for a while, to start retraining your customers. You also need to think that, what else did I have written down here? Bear with me. I did make some notes before we came on here. It might sound like I'm just waffling. Yeah, that was it. No, I think I've covered that one actually. No, that was the other thing. Is just if you are the business that's constantly having a sale on, you are going to be attracting bargain hunters. So have a look at the wording you're using in your marketing, on your website. Are you giving the impression using words like sale, discount, bargain, free? What sort of language are you using to give your customers the impression that you are someone that's offering regular discounts and you're attracting the bargain hunters? And maybe it's time to, delete some of those posts on your Instagram where you might have mentioned that you had a sale or a discount, and start changing the way you're marketing your business so that doesn't become a key part of selling your product. And I did a YouTube live a couple of weeks ago where I talked more about this, about selling during a cost of living crisis, which had some helpful tips on there as well. So if you didn't see that one, go back and re-watch that. So now on to the final question that we get asked a lot is, how do I set my prices if I'm making everything myself? And the biggest issue we see with people that are making their products themselves, particularly when they then want to move to outsourcing some of their production to a manufacturer, is they haven't been charging for their time, or they haven't been charging enough for their time. Or it could be that you are making your product with a manufacturer, but you're still quite heavily involved in some parts of it. That might be wrapping or the quality control process. And you probably are involved in some sort of logistics, and you're not adding in the cost of your time for doing that bit. And if you're not charging for your time, it becomes really difficult to grow your business because you haven't costed in the true cost of running that business if someone needed to replace you to do some of that work. So, in terms of how much you should charge for your time, I always think a really good rule of thumb is to take, at the very, very least, to take minimum wage and double it. So that would be like about £20 an hour at the very, very least, because chances are that is what a manufacturer would charge for the time that they spend in making your product. But that is a very loose rule of thumb, because that would be if you were mass manufacturing something. If you're making everything one-offs and made to order, so each one is different, then really you should be charging a sample price for making each one of those. And a manufacturer chances are a manufacturer will charge between £20 to £50 an hour to do sampling for you. So now you start to see how the costs could stack up if you're adding for your own, paying for your own time, which is often why when we introduce people to manufacturers when they've been making everything themselves, they're actually surprised that the cost of making it with a manufacturer versus the time that they get back themselves is that they can then spend on marketing and selling really pays dividends. Because if you're using all of your energy as the business owner making all the products, how have you actually got the time to do the marketing and the selling, which you must do? Because if you're not marketing and selling your products, then you haven't got a business. So that gives you a very rough calculation of how you should work it out. So I would say if you are watching this and you do make your products yourself, go back and put a timer on to how long it actually takes you to make things. I once went to a small workshop that made handbags, and they had a really good way of doing this because they always worked at the same bench where they made everything. She put a bit of masking tape on the edge of the bench for each product as she started making it. She would do a little bit and then write down how long that bit took, because then of course you go away, you make a cup of tea, you answer the phone, you do an email, you do an Instagram post, then you come back and you do another bit. So she'd write on, okay, I've spent another 20 minutes on it. So she just had this piece of tape running for that bag as she made it, so she could look at the end, add up all of the, like, I did 10 minutes here, I did 20 minutes there, I did 15 minutes there, and see at the end that she'd spent 3 hours on making that bag in total. And that really is how you need to do it. You need to work it out, because probably if you are making the products yourself, you've got many hats on and you're running around doing other things. So you've never really worked out exactly how long it takes you to make everything. So it's really important to do that. Roslyn says, good point. I don't charge for wrapping and postage. Roslyn, you need to add those on. How long does it take you to wrap and post something? Because what if your business grew massively and you, as the skilled craftsperson, should be focusing on doing the crafting and the making, and you needed to get in a little helper, a little Christmas elf to help you wrap and pack orders, you're going to have to pay them. So even if it's a 14-year-old, excuse me, even if it's your 14-year-old daughter or something, your child or a friend's kid from down the road, you've still got to give them some pocket money. You've still got to pay them something. Even if you're bribing them with sweets, you've still got to buy the sweets. So you need to factor that in. Brilliant. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining today. I hope you found that really useful. Answering your questions about typical questions that I get about pricing your products. And have a fantastic week. Thank you, everyone, for joining me. Take care. Bye.